Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, Sikkim 365 Radio, and also 365 Sports. John, thank you, sir, for your time. And so Paul was just letting me know, I saw the note, but Roger Goodell, owners, you need to act right. What does that mean?
That means don't tank. That means don't try to hire people from other teams who are under contract. Don't sexually harass any of your employees.
Yeah, you would feel like some of this should go unsaid, but apparently now it doesn't have to, John. But I mean, is this just a public thing? Because they're not going to do anything about the Commanders, right? And they've already punished the Dolphins. So what happens then?
Oh, they'll do something to the Commanders and Daniel Snyder at some point, and they still have to worry about an investigation of Mark Davis. Don't know if they're going to investigate the Cowboys over the Rich Dalrymple controversy, but there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. The NFL is investigating. Chargers have a sibling trying to force the other siblings to sell the franchise. There's a lot of things going on around the NFL. It's almost like they need to hire more investigators.
Yeah, no doubt. John, because it's become customary at this point till it won't be needed any longer, what's the latest on Deshaun Watson?
Nothing. Goodell talked about today, same thing everybody's been talking about. He was predatory behavior and egregious behavior, and so they're waiting on Peter Harvey, the former New Jersey Attorney General, who helped formulate the new conduct policy, worked on Zeke Elliott and a couple other of the cases for the league, waiting for him to see if he's going to give them 10, if he's going to give them 12, or is he going to give them a season.
All right, so I saw is it Roquan Smith, the linebacker for the Bears, hell of a player, a tremendous player, and now he doesn't feel he's valued. Is this, as you always say, all about the money?
It's always about the money. And I'll bet you when he gets paid, he'll believe he's valued. And I don't blame him. He's a really good player, and he sees wide receivers squawk to get paid, and they get traded, and they get astronomical amounts of money. So I don't blame him or players at any other position trying to get what they believe they're worth. The owners have the money. There's a salary cap in place, of course, but as the Rams showed in the offseason, you can get your best players re-signed if you really indeed want to.
Yeah, John, some teams think the salary cap is very real, like the Cowboys seem to, and then some teams don't regard it at all, like Les Snead and the Rams. And
well, Paul, excuse me, you got to, when the new league year starts in the middle of March, that's when you have to be under it. You can be over it as much as you want to be over it, but then you got to slice and dice and cut to get under it. So teams that have re-signed players, like you mentioned, the Rams GM Les Snead, at some point they're going to have to pay the piper. It's just not going to be this season when they're trying to win back-to-back Super Bowls for the first time since the Patriots after the 03 and 04 season.
John, what do you when you look at teams like the Cowboys, who've been 26 years, and they have an offseason, I think I might have asked you this before, where a lot of the moves they make don't make sense, at least, especially for the return they got, and now they didn't do anything about kicker, and they're bringing in a guy who kicked for them 3 years ago and was awful. When you look at Jerry Jones, do you ever say, like, what do you do? Like, what is he doing?
I think people say that about Jerry Jones all the time. And he's got a good personnel guy, Will McClain, who's been offered several general managers jobs, and he stayed there to work with the Jones family. But how a team can not solidify that position is amazing, because so many games are settled by 3 or fewer points. And when the Cowboys are trying to become the first NFC East champion to repeat since Andy Reid won 4 with Philadelphia. You know they're going to play some close games, and you know at some point they're going to regret not having that position solidified. There's nothing worse than having a revolving door for kickers during regular season. And I think the Cowboys are going to win the division. I think they're going to win it because they clearly have the best quarterback and they have the best offense. And it's not even close. Jalen Hurts, they got a good running game, and Hurts is trying to take the next step in his development. But Dak Prescott is the premier quarterback in that division. And when I'm trying to pick teams that are going to win their division, most of the times I'll go with the best quarterback.
John, I saw the Texans release their depth chart. Jalen Pitre listed as a starter. I don't know if that's a huge surprise, but are you continuing to hear good things about the Baylor rookie?
Always. He's been, when Lovie Smith slipped last week and said he's a starter, I tweeted, hey, that's a no-brainer. I've been writing that since the draft. Of course he's going to be a starter. Right now they have 4 new starters in their secondary. Derek Stingley, first-round pick. At corner, Jalen Pitre, second-round pick at safety. Jonathan Owens, whose fiance is Simone Biles at safety, and a free agent cornerback, Stephen Nelson. And having 4 new starters in secondary is a good thing because they had one of the worst secondaries in the league. By the way, I got to tell a story right quick.
Sure.
I grew up in Waco, as you guys know, as a diehard Cowboy fan from 1960 when they started until I came down here in 76 and started covering the Oilers. And 2 of my favorite players off the Doomsday defense were Bob Lilly and Chuck Alley. And I've never met Chuck Alley, but I met Bob Lilly numerous times. And I volunteered on the seniors committee. I didn't volunteer. I requested to present Chuck Alley to our committee to be the senior nominee. And Chuck's waited a long time. He's 86 years old. And I was talking to Bob Lilly during practice about him. And I got off and I pinched myself. You know, you use the expression, you wanted to pinch yourself. And I'm thinking, growing up in Waco and crying when the Cowboys got beat and then getting mad when they got beat. And here I am presenting Chuck Alley and talking to Bob Lilly. And I'm thinking, how did I get from there to here? It's an incredible honor. And I'm going to do everything I possibly can to convince our committee that Chuck Alley is finally deserving of being in the Hall of Fame.
I'm going to say this, and I don't know what your percentage is or your batting average, but when you get behind somebody, it is usually full throttle with everything you do, but you are – I bet your percentages on things like this is pretty high.
Well, I didn't get – one time I represented former Eagles defensive end Claude Humphrey, and he didn't make it, and I felt terrible. And I felt bad for him and his family. And I know they're not expecting it with Howley. But one time, about 3 years before Tom Landry died, he was at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and I was outside. And I asked him if I could ask him a question about the Hall of Fame, and he said, sure, as long as it wasn't for publication. And I said, what former Cowboy is most deserving of being in the Hall of Fame? And this was before we put in Rayfield Wright, Drew Pearson, Cliff Harris, Bob Hayes, and he said without hesitating, Chuck Alley. And then he went in about why Chuck was so great. And so I'm going to do everything I can. And if I can't do it, it won't be because they don't think he deserves it. It's just they'll think there's others who deserve it more, but I'm giving it everything I got.
Thank you, man. John, always good to hear from you.
Hey, John, I got one more question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was looking at that depth chart. I know Drew Estrada's a long shot. I think he's listed as like the 7th or 8th wide receiver. But have you heard anything just about him and his time with the Texans in camp?
Yeah, he looks good standing on the sideline while he's hurt.
Okay.
When you're an undrafted free agent and you're hurt, then your chances are slim and none and some left out.
Yeah, I didn't know he was injured, so thanks for the update.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Glad
My
you
pleasure,
asked.
Craig. Thank you, guys.
And
Oh, he said it.